Okay, so now I started a live video. So you can go into my story and join the video. And then don't send me a request, I will send you one.
Okay.
Okay, as soon as you're online, I will send you one.
I'll wait for your live to end, right?
No, like you see my live in the stories buttons now. And then you just click on that and come join. So you just go into the live session like as audience.
Okay. I'm just sitting here.
Okay, but you're not in my live session, no?
Yes, there you go.
But like I can't see you there. Like you don't appear.
Okay. Okay, that one ended.
Okay. So like you're still not in my live session? Okay, now you're in there. Okay, so now I'm gonna in, and now it should pop up like invites you for the live, like to. Okay. Yay! Yay! Okay, I will close the Google Meet now. Awesome. Okay, guys, welcome to this episode and live session of Minimalist Biohacker, your portal for biohacking and minimalism. I'm very sorry, and whoever is still in there and joining now and coming again, thank you so much, because we kicked you out like 4 times because the connection didn't work. But finally we got it. And actually, it will be worth it that you come back again and stay here, because the topic we discussed today is of very high importance. We are speaking about one of the key metrics I use to actually track how my body's status is, like how I perform, how fit I am, how recovered I am, if there's something going on, if I should take a rest day or push myself a little bit. And I am talking about the heart rate variability. And we have an expert from Phoenix, USA, if I got it right. And you actually sent me your signature, and that's like kind of a book in and of itself. Let me just quickly introduce you, Dr. Joe Diduro. And very welcome. I'm happy you can join. Maybe you can just quickly introduce yourself, because I'm overwhelmed with all those titles and things. So just explain just quickly what you do and who you are. That would be awesome.
And I like to say I'm not your average Joe, Marco. So thanks for having me on. I'm a chiropractic neurologist, 32 years in practice. I have a master's degree in clinical research, and one of my passions has been neuroregeneration, and that's kind of where my field is. And then I realized that I wanted to become a little bit more indestructible. And I started to track my HRV because I realized how important it was. And I realized that I was a little bit messed up. And so I try to, do strategies to help, increase my viability, my vitality,
Okay, awesome. And if it, like, basically you explained it already, is of course for performance reasons, that's for health reasons, and to see like how am I performing, how is my body doing. How did you get into like this whole field of like neurology and the brain, and how to improve heart rate variability and also photobiomodulation?
Well, when you're a brain geek, I never really thought about that I'm a biohacker, because my biology is going to do what it does. But I'm a kid that I'm 60 years old almost, and I was taking protein supplements when I was 9 years old. So I was always taking supplements. I was always, natural health things like that. That was my job, as a chiropractor. So we were always looking for an edge. I remember the old days. I got the book Life Extensions by those two people, and they used to talk about, take preservatives because they'll preserve your body. They had all sorts of weird stuff. So I mean, I have a lot of gray hair, Marco. So I've been doing a lot of stuff for a long time. So it's, let's see where it goes.
Yeah, like basically that is like for the audience who's like really just in for the first time. Like basically this wording of biohacking is very recent, but you have to imagine that biohacking, like basically, let's formulate it differently, like playing with a physique and trying things and being a little bit experimental with yourself and going from a science perspective. This is something that is like it's there for a long time. And if you just think about bodybuilders who basically try different food, different things, different workouts, just to go like find this little bit of edge to be more competitive, to get stronger. That is already biohacking, and this is just a very new and fancy word that markets really well. But it basically just means to get more out of your life, to get more health, to understand your system, your body, and so on. And I guess you're also tracking and measuring whatever's going on, right?
Well, I think that when you think, you know, what you said, they used to drink, you know, cow blood, and they do whatever, eat liver, you know what I mean? So, you know, what we're trying to train for in reality is we're trying to build grit. Grit is a word that is about, you know, passion and perseverance. And really what we're training for is resiliency these days. And I think it circles back to, you know, what is HRV? And to just kind of, you know, my interpretation of HRV is really, it's kind of like your joy score. You know what I mean? It relates to so many different aspects of your neurophysiology and your physiology that it's very a good idea to keep a look at it. So, you know, depressed people have low HRV. Anxious people have low HRV. And so the worst thing you can do for your HRV is to worry, Marco. And look at the way people are these days. Everybody's freaking out, you know? And how do you sustain, what do they call it? Anti-fragile? How do you become, you know, how do you persevere in this culture? So it's really, it's important for your recovery and everything like that, but it's also important for your mental and emotional state. So physical, mental, emotional, maybe even spiritual.
That is awesome. I love that. And one of the points actually why my company and what I do is called Minimalist Biohacker is exactly because I tried so many things that I actually got stressed trying them and fitting them into my day. And that actually does what you say. It does the opposite. And you think you are optimizing and you go all crazy about optimizing. Oh, which supplements should I take? Oh, what is the perfect approach? Oh, I didn't meditate for 30 minutes today. And what you see in the data is your HRV actually drops, which we come to is a bad thing. But maybe you can quickly explain to the audience, like for the people who don't know anything about it, like what is HRV?
So let's take an idea. And I usually, you know, bring this up. It's like, what do you think is better for your heart? To have a regular heartbeat, like a metronome, very regular, or irregular, if you will, chaotic? You know, and the majority of people say regular. Well, the closer your heart rate variability was the difference from beat to beat. If it's the same all the time, then you are at a high risk for immediate death. So the reality of it is that the body functions on chaos. Obviously, it has to function that way because it's a chaotic world. You know, your heart doesn't know if it's going to be alive in the next beat. In reality, who knows, right? So it's a chaos thingamajig there. So you want to have it be bandwidth. Heart rate variability, I kind of talk about it as bandwidth. You know, how much bandwidth do you have in your adaptability? Adaptability. So that's what we focus on. And we train in the people that I coach. Of course, we use the heart rate variability and a bunch of other stuff, but that's the key. How much bandwidth do you have? You know, and that's really what the variability is. It's a number, and it goes bigger. And the point is, many people, they don't know if the score is if they're playing golf or they're playing bowling. What do I mean? Golf, you want a low number. Bowling, you want a high number. So there's a lot of people who don't understand HRV. So that's the physiology. The bad part is then we have to try to measure it on a human being. And that's where it gets real tricky because, you know, how much reliability do you have in your device to measure it? So that's, to be able to get good data, you need reliable input data of the physiology that we're trying to measure. Is that simple enough?
Yeah, of course. And I think we can go later on a bit into technology and what is a tool to measure it. So I usually explain it to people like this, like if you're stressed and if you have a situation of danger, your heart basically tries to keep blood pressure high and or stable. So it actually pumps very regularly. And if you can relax, your heart actually relaxes as well and says like, oh, I don't have to take it too seriously how my beats are stacking up. And then you get these milliseconds of variation. So that is usually how I approach this. But when you said this, like for the people, I think like if I would listen to this for the first time, I didn't know what it is, I would ask myself, okay, good, but what is a good HRV?
Well, a good HRV is very personal. Now, in the sense that, you know, it's just like a golfer. You have some genetic inabilities, age affects your HRV, and some things that we're not really paying much attention to. Traumatic brain injuries, concussions, bad falls. It will reduce your HRV, and you could be a super fine athlete. And I take care of extreme athletes, coach, you know, guys that, as we're going to see in the podcast, my stuff coming up. A guy who solo rode in a boat by himself, rode from LA to Hawaii. 3,000 miles, 71 days, 10 hours of rowing. So these are really, you know, kind of individuals who push themselves. And that's, you know, champion MMA fighters and things like that. So the number really is a personal number, but the main point is higher is better, and you want to trend upward. You know, that's the key. That's the key. So
that's a really
start
good
where you start where you start, but the idea is you should be able to have a wide range. You should be able to go, you know, throughout the day, just like you said, you know, you see a pretty girl, your heart rate should go up. You got to run across the street, your heart rate should go up. You want to go to bed, your heart rate should go down. And with that, you know, there's some changes in your variability. After a workout, you know, you're working out, your heart rate variability should go up, and then it should go back down, because that's what you're measuring. When you're measuring your recovery, Marco, when you're trying to see how did I do, you're actually checking the bandwidth and your ability to adapt, right? So you're going to drive it down, stress it out and drive it down, stress it out and drive it down, and be able to go like that, up and down and up and down, and have a wider variance and have a wider range of emotions. Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. So basically what I'm looking for is this wide motion, like this high variability, basically this high frequency, instead of just like always up or always down, which also doesn't help because we just go through different phases, right?
Correct.
But if we say like we have a high average HRV, which is usually good, right? Like we want to relax and then we have a higher HRV. What does that mean? How does that relate to like mental clarity, recovery, and like being physically active?
Right. So, you know, I love the idea of being a minimalist. You know, I think that's key. You know, that's why I follow a lot of biohackers, but I pay attention to you, because you don't really need to have all the gizmos. You just need to have the feedback from the gizmos. So when the gizmo tells you this, what do I feel like? So my gizmo says I'm strong today, but it's my gizmo. We talked about what can it measure, how well can it measure it, but how do I feel? So I always try to say, if you don't feel vital, you're probably not. So it's a great way to kind of go with it, but we're so conditioned to like, how are you? I'm fine. You know, but really, how are you? Because what you're telling me and your number are not really matching up. So that's the circle that you have to pay attention to, is how much can you relate to that as yourself? Can you be told that you don't have a good heart rate variability? Can you be told that can you tell yourself that the number maybe is real and really you have shitty recovery and burning yourself out? I don't know.
I absolutely love that. Like for everyone's listening, what Dr. Diduro just described is actually what was one of my key problems when I was a bit younger, like not like 2 years ago or something. I actually conditioned myself. I disciplined myself. So I actually listened to all these fitness guys who say like, don't take rest days, just go hard. I mean, your body will adapt, you will get stronger, which of course is true. You will get stronger. But on the other hand, if you overdo it, you will burn out first before your body can adapt and get stronger. And this is what happened to me super regularly. So just as an example, I trained for 5 to 6 weeks, then I was sick for 2 weeks. Then I started on level 1 again. And like it was always this like perform, crash, perform, crash. And with that, actually, you can really look into your body and get a data, a measurement for how you actually feel. Because when I woke up in the morning, I thought like, oh, don't feel super good, but hey, I mean, it's supposed to be like that, right? I'm going to train. And then you crash and burn. And that is like, for me, using tools like this is actually not the preferable way. I would love to have such a good connection to my body that I don't need an app to tell me how good I feel. But I'm so conditioned to performance, so conditioned to train, to work out, to work, to stress myself that I lost the connection. And heart rate variability helps. Mm-hmm.
I think you're right on it. You need someone to kind of be over your shoulder and give you the thing that says, you know, because how do you become indestructible? You stop destroying yourself. You know, we're the ones that take that overdo, that do overdose. You understand? It's not an overdo, it's an overdose, and someone has to be able to put the brakes on you. Sure, you know, hard gain or all that stuff that they talked about. But the number one reason that competitive athletes fail is because they fail to peak. They fail to optimize. They overtrain. They're overcoached. They worry. And that's the worst thing you can do. You worry. And so why does the psychology play into that? Why does sports psychology play into it? Because it relates to how your body's reacting, how you're going to be able to be in things. I think what we're kind of basically talking about, Marco, is if you can follow the data and match it up with what you feel, you're going to arrive at the flow. You're going to be in the flow. You're not going to be anxious. You're not going to be sad. You're not going to be too calm. You're going to have your demands meet your abilities. And that's where you grow. That's where you get in the flow and you're able to be creative, find solutions, you know, see the ball. Every time slows down. That's what we're trying to hit. The ball's moving in slow motion. The basket is as big as a barrel. Everything's happening. Well, what is that? What is that state? Well, that is you hitting your bandwidth and being there at the right moment. Boom, boom. Challenge and ability. But keep overstepping that and you get knocked down pretty quick. Overdose.
Oh my God, how much I love that. Like, beautifully put. And I think that this is, for all the people listening who just like resonate with that, I think this is a typical A-player thing. Like, if you're like kind of this high performer and you want to achieve and you're ambitious, you are very likely to overdo it because you push yourself. You want to go ahead. It's harder to step down and to acknowledge that you need recovery time and that maybe today is not the best day to do a heavy weight or whatever. And that is the hardest part usually. And that's why I like biohacking. If people ask me, but I mean, like, I can just listen to my body, I don't need measurements, then I usually say, yeah, if you can really do that, good. But chances are you don't, and you basically overdo it, and as you say, you never peak then. And I'm pretty sure I wasted at least 10 years of sports performance and growth performance on the road because I went into this cycle of imagine super performance and then really crash and then back up and crash. And I think a lot of people act like that. So that's why I actually chose this approach of biohacking and measuring.
Think about this. It's only the athletes who have the incredible high to perform that they want to be able to, that they can crash so much. You understand? I mean, why do people watch sports? They want to watch people excel and they want to watch people fail. because that's really how it goes in life. I mean, you need to be in the flow if you're going to do stock options, if you're going to be at your job, if you're going to do brain surgery on somebody. You know, I want to see what the sleep scores and the recovery scores are on my surgeons and the guys that come in and put the fire out at my house. You know, are they up to their performance that day, or are they just kind of, maybe I can't make these decisions quick enough, maybe I can't process this stuff enough. So I agree with you. The minimalist approach is if you can not listen to everybody else, you have to be able to listen to yourself. Now, my coach says this, my coach says that. I mean, society says this, and you know, these people in the magazine say that. So I agree with you. You need to have a clear sense of your heart. You understand? Perhaps one of the best reasons that heart rate variability is important is because you start to listen to your heart.
That's right? A good analogy. Yeah, no, definitely true. It's I listen to my brain a lot, like like just like you said. Basically, you read it in a magazine and you compare and you think like, okay, everyone should be able to do 20 pull-ups in a row. Like, really, I'm weak. I have to train more and more and more. Typical approach to failure. But I think like the listeners now, they will probably be already very, very like fired up maybe and thinking that yeah, I'm gonna go into heart rate variability. Before we go into how we can actually improve it, which actually I can't wait to hear from you, because actually mine right now is, compared to the last few weeks, a bit weaker, and I actually don't know how, because it didn't change anything. But that in a few minutes. First of all, if people say like, yes, I also want to join the tracking club of heart rate variability, how can they track it? What would you recommend? So
that's a big question and a loaded question. So let me put it to you this way: that you, so here I am, 60-year-old researcher, right? You know, I've seen you work out. I've seen the weights that you've done. I've seen you on your rings, and I go, Marco is one strong mother. You know, I'm not that strong. I don't have the grip. I'm not that strong, right? So it's like, well, how can you compare your physical ability and my physical ability? Well, we want to track it with the individual. So what I'm saying is, here I am, I got my device, and I go on the group, and my stuff was bad, my heart rate variability, my recovery, all that stuff that they thought was bad. And so I said, well, I have to improve this. So I went from having like a 35 to like 160, right? So I said, I figured it out. I did a good job. Look at me. My hacks are working, right? My super hacks, I call them. And everybody said, oh, your machine is not reliable. You're getting fake numbers, or you're sick. And I was like, I'm not really so sure about that, because my percentage of all users, of the thousands and thousands and tens of thousands, was 240% higher than anybody in my age group. So I said, well, they said, no, your device isn't reliable. So I got another device. And they said, well, and I could see that doing my data that wasn't reliable. So actually, you know, it's not to build a better mousetrap, but I think we've come up with a adhesive chest strap that just sticks on you. So there's no, you're getting it right from the heart, not from a vein. You're using EKG's quality signal. Then we can start talking. But I agree that the tracking devices and the bio-tracking devices, they give us a lot of information, stuff that we need, but they don't give us the real information. So we have a level of screw-upness that is not really going to measure, but at least it gives us a start. And it might be good enough for some people, and it's nice to blame the golf clubs when you have a bad game, right, Marco?
Yeah,
you know? That's what I like about the weights. You know, the weights, you don't have to have a whole lot of skill, and they don't talk back, and you can throw them around. So weights are fun. And golf is a little bit more sophisticated. So what I say is, I suggest that if you want to get a tracker, get any tracker that works. All of them have their positives and all of them have their negatives. But the one that we use is medical quality EKG. So then the data can be, they can't tell me that, no, you didn't do that. No, I did do that. And I'm still, you know, for my age, at the highest percentage of users, known users of this stuff, no matter what, you know, device or platform that I use. So that's the first thing. Did I answer your question sufficiently, or did I?
Yeah, so So basically, let me wrap this up for the audience, and you just jump in when I say something incorrectly. So, like to people listening, how you can measure your HRV, there are basically a lot of different trackers out there. And it actually starts with devices like this Garmin, which is below 100 euros. Actually, they use the technology of First Beat. They don't even show you the HRV. They just have something called body battery. You can like
Right.
it kind of matches my subjective feelings, and it actually matches with the other tracking device I use, which is the Aura Ring. And I think the Aura Ring is like it's my favorite tracker. It's like $300 or euros or something, so it's still quite affordable, and it kind of gives me a very good like indication of where I am. And probably like in a study or a medical comparison, it would probably fail. And also if you want to compare to others, like I've seen in the comments already, like mine is so and so, it will probably fail. But like for me getting a picture of how I feel and when I should recover, it actually works. So you can start there, getting a device here, or move to more sophisticated devices, like actually a chest strap, which is usually also for heart rate much more accurate than wristbands or something like that.
So remember, there's two different things that you're talking about, right? So you're talking about a health data, biodata device, and you're talking about HRV. Because there are two different things, and this one, you know, this one might have a heart rate, but that's the last thing you're going to know about your HRV. So the device is important. So let's just make that distinction. To do HRV on your own is much more difficult. So it's great that we have these devices that sort of do it, because it gives us some insight. And
but help me out there. Like, what is the like the Aura Ring does actually show a HRV number and measurement. But
yeah, but it's an algorithm.
Difference?
It's correct. Every device uses a different algorithm to say this is HRV. Algorithm. So you know, they take it in a certain amount of time, and the battery turns off, it turns back on. There's many technical things that says it's not giving me HRV number, because they have to do the algorithms, because this is not a true heart rate. So it's an algorithm of a supposition to give you the data. That's not a bad thing, because it has to be useful. It has to fit within the device parameters and the battery and the memory and all that stuff. But remember this. My wife used to yell at me all the time because I snored and I kept her awake. And I was like, hey, I'm as innocent as a baby. I'm sleeping like a baby. How can I be blamed for that stuff? So tracking the things that we're not conscious of is extremely important. Extremely important for coaching clients, because, you know, you ask a client, how'd you sleep? Good. I sleep good. Well, you only got 4.5 hours sleep, so what does that say? If you think you sleep good, you feel you sleep good, but you don't understand that you're not sleeping well. And that's really where it starts. So it's good. And good sometimes is good enough, but if you really want to dig down, you need the real data, the real numbers from a real device. And that's why I say ours device is just coming on the market now. I think it's going to be amazing, the things that it does in the dashboard that we put together. So yeah, we're into that. We're into that.
Okay, awesome. So that's a really good, that is something I didn't know actually. I actually assumed that they used the pulse of the skin basically, and then just basically measure the time that the pulse is working, and therefore like really track this very.
So they have to check it. Like the BioStrap will give you an on-demand one. The Aura Ring, it can't read it all the time, because that's not what it's doing, and motion stops it. So they did the best they can to come to market with a consumer device that gives you some kind of info, and that's why most people have 2 or 3, because they want to compare, they want to see it. But you were going to go ahead with your question.
No, that's fine. Continue. Like it's super interesting.
Because I'm saying is that it's still, even if it just gives you a little bit, it still gives you a score, it still gives you a number, it still gives you something to focus on. And that's why we got to kind of figure out the hacks. What's blocking you? What's stopping you? from having my team is called Team HRV 100 because I said everybody should get to 100. What's wrong with why can't you get to 100? You know?
Okay, and that's the perfect introduction to basically the most important part and what I can't wait for. So just to wrap it up quickly. Okay, we now measure HRV with any device, even if it's just an algorithm-based device like the Oura Ring. And actually, a higher HRV is better, or a higher average HRV is good, like variability is good. But how do we improve it? Like, how do we get it up? How do we come into the hundreds?
So let's just talk for 1 second. Remember now, new level, new devil. So we're always going to peak. We're always going to have our peak. And the guy used to say, gotta love the plateau. But you know, don't feel sad when it dips down because you're going to address other things. When you change, and then so everything has to change around you. And we're talking about, you know, a big heart-brain connection when we're talking about HRV. So many things can block you. And I think when I started to work with these people, the biggest problem is their sleep, you know. So they got to get good sleep, and they got to be able to, you know, have good sleep hygiene and get their stuff together because that is your recovery. You don't make muscles in the gym, Marco. You make muscles when you rest. So that's the whole point.
Exactly.
You got to balance those two things out. But one of the most the biggest mystery that people find is they don't correlate the brain health to their heart health. And that's really, you know, I'm a brain geek, so I realized that the biggest thing that can really undermine a hugely competitive athlete with incredible amounts of drive, and their HRV is like a third of what mine is, and they're a third my age, so the mathematics should be, he should be triple mine, correct? So the point is that remember, people who do sports get injured. And anything that will knock the wind out of you will create a concussive force into your brain. So that is called a traumatic brain injury. Even if it's never diagnosed, even if you never, you know, got knocked out. But if you have enough wind, a force, a shock to knock the wind out of you, you sent a ripple of, you know, brain damage. That's what happens when the people get blown up. They don't get hurt by the shrapnel. They get hurt by the sound wave. Do you understand? And
the pressure. Mm-hmm.
It's the pressure, and it passes through your entire body. That's why those guys that jump in the water and then the boat blows up, you know, and they think they're saved. You know what I mean? Walk away from the explosions. You know what I mean? That's good TV. But the reality of it is that this little, you know, 3 pounds of Jello up here is our whole reality. Really, was where we live. So that is a real key, and that's why I think for me, having been a survivor or recoverer from traumatic brain injuries, that's where I said, you know what, I can put these two things together, fix my brain, and watch it fix my heart and my heart rate variability. Take the brakes off, because remember, this tells the heart go or slow. So those are the two things that are going. Your sympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system is what's running your heart rate variability. You know, your heart has its own intrinsic beating stuff, of course. But then to be a human, we need to have the step on the gas and step on the brake. And when you have, you know, traumatic brain injury, this is a physical injury to tissue, you're going to change the way those neurons work. And one of the ways you can read it is by, you know, your emotions, say PTSD, or some things like with your sweat, your nervous system, and your heart rate variability. So that's why I think people are not going to find that. They're not going to find somebody that's going to help them understand that their traumatic brain injuries can influence their heart rate variability, right? And then how to fix it so that it can go up. So that's a big gimme. That's like taking the blanket off of the wet blanket off the fire, let it dry out, and then woof, up it goes, right?
Okay, so but like for a regular Joe like me, who like I'm at least I can't remember basically having a traumatic brain injury lately. For me, HRV like drops let's say if I have a lot of stress at work, if I had a lot of worries, and like now with Corona and financial trouble, you probably population wide, you see a little drop in HRV just like that. But like if I see now, okay, basically I start a new training program, my HRV drops, something is going on. I don't know what. Is it work? Is it training? Is it sleep? Whatever. Like, what would you suggest? Like, what are there actually steps I can take to improve it? Like things that everyone can do, like without going to a lab?
Well, let's think about that for a second. Let's think about this. Just to make the first point a little bit clearer. So when they say someone has permanent brain damage, what does that mean? It's permanent, right? So when I say to you, you know, you look like you're living in Austria, there's a lot of snow. You like to ski?
Of course, yeah.
Of course. So, okay, but you don't remember having any traumatic injuries that might affect your brain. But I'll tell you, the worst falls I ever took were skiing. The most I ever got the wind knocked out of me was falling when I'm skiing. And so, you know, we didn't wear helmets back in our day. And if Schumacher can suffer a traumatic brain injury with probably one of the finest reactive nervous systems in the world, what's that say about me? So I want to say a little bit to pump your brakes a little bit, Marco, because it's evident. It's evident. And what happens is when you hurt the brain, it has to slow everything down for the brain to recover. And if the brain doesn't recover, it can't speed back up. So I want to take the ceiling off of people to get better in their HRV and to recover. That's the first thing. So that's really the first thing, because you can say, oh, I'm a competitive athlete and my HRV is great. And sometimes it dips and that bothers me. That's not what most people say. Most people say is, how come I can't get my heart rate variability to go up at all? So that's the first thing. I think that's the first thing. The second thing is, if it's going up and trending in an upward direction and you're doing good, that's a good thing. And then it's going to drop. And then you have to step back and kind of review yourself. But you kind of have to do all that review in order to get it to go up. So sleep and, you know, stress and worry, and you got to check yourself. You know, you got to check yourself. And that's difficult to say, oh, what am I doing? What am I worried about? What am I thinking about? And I say that your HRV, your recovery starts when you open your eyes in the morning. Boom. How's your day going to go? How are you going to react to the lines, right? Why do you want to give somebody a heart attack? Put them in a line and make them wait and wait and wait and wait. That's contrary to the human condition. Humans want to do. They don't want to wait. So how are you going to adapt? How are you going to adapt today and the stresses that are put upon you? What's your bandwidth? What can you do? So simple hacks are, right, paying attention, like you said. What am I doing? Can I have a little checklist? But we do tend to fall into that neuroticism of like, worry about my thing, worry about my number, you know, worry about my this, worry about my that. And so to some extent, it's good. But I like to paint with a broad brush, right? So I say, look, what's a broad brush? Put the light on, right? That's a broad brush. And you know, I've got something to say about these Juve panels, these panels that are out here like this. I say, I'm so much better now that I have light on me. And I think you drank the marketing Kool-Aid, because the light is good when it's pressed into you. That's when you get the deepest penetration. This is like, you know,
yeah,
compare that to the sun.
I basically use one of those and I just put it on my belly when I lie there. So
yeah, I mean, that's part of you know, it will increase your parasympathetic tone, but it's better if it's flexible and it fits and it's comfortable and you can fall asleep with it. Listen, I've been doing light therapies for 20 years, right? So I've designed and so many devices. And we used to have, the first ones that we used were these plastic like boxes. And I couldn't wait to get rid of those because they just don't work. They don't work as well. So what I'm trying to say is this. So if like I say this all the time, if I had a patient come in that was an alcoholic and they wanted to, you know, stop drinking they wanted to not be alcoholic anymore. And I said, well, why don't you try green juice smoothies? And he comes back in a month and he says, you know what? I'm not an alcoholic anymore because I drink this this green juice smoothie. And I says, no, Bob, you're not an alcoholic anymore because you don't drink alcohol, you know? So my analogy is that people who understand that red light is important and they put one in their wall, they're reducing the garbage light. And that's very helpful. And they're getting some red light, which is cooling down their circadian rhythm in the evening. But to talk about mitochondrial upregulation from a panel that's 3 feet away from you is ludicrous. I think it's really quite ludicrous. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's enough data to support that. So that's the point.
Oh, that's super interesting. Let's stick with that just for a second, because I'm actually a big fan of red light, just also for the subjective feelings and also that it improves my sleep quality on the Aura Ring score and so on. It doesn't want to be turned off.
No, that's me. So what I'm asking is this. Your sleep score could get better because you hit your circadian rhythm, because you turned off the garbage light, you know? But when you're talking about red light, this is red and infrared light. Is there
the Nano V?
No, this is our device that goes up the nose, right? If I turn off the light, if it was dark enough, you could see it's bright. It's bright in the dim light. So this goes up your nose, directly stimulating the prefrontal cortex. That definitely has a way to change the whole brain, right? And the prefrontal cortex is directly involved in heart rate variability regulation. So if this doesn't have the juice, this doesn't have the juice. So you got to pay attention to where your application, and you can't get any real, this is very close. And you can put it in the ears also. So the difference is red light is superficial and it's good for the blood. But the infrared light penetrates deeper and can get into the neural tissue for stronger neural rehabilitation. So yeah, it's a big game changer, really.
Okay, and just very briefly, like not too deep into detail, but why is it that light does that? Like, what about the red light?
Well, photobiomodulation actually can be transcribed into light, okay, photo, bio, which is cell or tissue, modulation change. So the idea is that, light is like the light diet. Light is something that the body needs. And so how do you dose it the right way? What's the best light? Sunlight is great. It's a light shower. It's good for you. It's tons of power. Like 5 million joules if you stay out for half an hour, like unbelievable amount of light energy coming into you. But that's, part of it. That's really part of it, that we need light. And one of the things that's important is that, that we are a light capacitor. The human being's job is to, we give off energy. And some of it is, could be even condensed, thought of as light. So it's really a key, in these times of social isolation, that we can have, if we can't have some closeness, at least we can have some energy to put near us to give us that person-to-person connection. You know what I mean? That's what we're sharing. We're sharing our energy. We're sharing the stuff that's given off us. So, that's the 3,000-foot view, really. But, when you want to get into all the mechanisms and how it changes, and, there's a lot of things that go on when you put light in the body. And it depends on when you put it in and where you put it in, and the wavelengths and everything like that. But it's a big topic. It's a big topic to cover. But the point is, we need light. We need light.
And I think you actually pointed out a few cool things that I just quickly want to grab. One is that like basically we emit light. If you want to think about it, like it's kind of the heat we radiate is kind of a wavelength, and that is nothing different than a light, basically, right? So basically we give off infrared, and a bonfire will give off infrared rays, and then also you have the morning sunlight and the evening sunlight, which in a lot of cultures and religions it's a vital part of like re-energizing. But then I just want to ask you, like, because you said like this, like devices like this, they have to get up close because otherwise they don't penetrate like deeply enough. But like, what if someone says, I don't like technology, I'm going to stand into the morning and evening sun? Is it strong enough to trigger these effects?
Well, it's strong enough to change the brain, okay? Because you're going to be setting your circadian rhythm the strongest. See it in the morning, see it at night. That's a big part of your circadian rhythm. That's why those red light panels are helpful, because, you know, in order to see the red light, they have to turn off all the rest of the lights, so that's good. This is not going to be stimulating to you. But remember, the sun, the fire has a lot of blue light in it, which is not, you're really not supposed to see blue light in the evening. But it's a small amount of blue light, and all the rest of the lights, red and orange and all that stuff. But there's blue in there. So different wavelengths have different effects on the body. That's why looking at your device in the evening is very, very bad, because you're blasting blue light into your brain and it's saying, wake up. So seeing the sun go down and seeing the sun go up are so beneficial to the body's clock, the circadian rhythm. Do they increase your vitality and your sperm count and change your heart rate variability? Probably not. Probably not. It's not going to increase your vitality. And I question, how are you getting 8 hours of sleep if you're seeing the sun at 4:15 in the morning? What's more important to me? Seeing the sun right there, staring at the sun, or getting another 2 hours of sleep? I'm going to go for 2 hours sleep myself, and I'll put my light on when I want it, right? I'll put my light on when I want it. So that's just me. That's just me. But that circadian rhythm is so key, and it's all screwed up. Social jet lag. Have you heard that term, Marco?
No, actually not.
So they looked at this. There's a study that looked at the lockdown and how it's affecting people with social jet lag. So I always try to figure this out with people. It's like, in the weekend, you're going to binge, you're going to drink more, you're going to stay out more, you're going to drive your system into the toilet because everybody else does it. So I'm going to be social, and I'm going to throw my clock off by 3 hours and try to reset myself at, the body loves habit. The body loves habit. So we pay attention to that as far as what's going to drive you down. What can drive your heart rate variability down? We're a social animal. Go ahead.
No, fine. I just didn't know, I didn't know the wording, but I actually made a post about this because I'm absolutely guilty of that. And I think a lot of people are. They're kind of like dragging through the week, going gangbusters on Friday and Saturday, curing the hangover on Sunday with completely disrupted sleep timing, and then drag themselves to the office on Monday again, thinking this is their normal rhythm. And I can tell you what really helps there, and that is a baby, because it will sleep how it sleeps, and it won't follow your social rules or whatsoever. And you actually wake up at 6 o'clock on Sunday as well. And since I actually follow a better cycle and also use kind of sleep cycle calculations to get that in, I actually feel way better. So getting a consistency in there is a game changer. Absolutely.
The body loves habit. People say that, you have to realize that when you're trying to fix they request to get better from whatever their disease problem is. Mine is basically, we do neurorehabilitation and change people's dementia and all that sort of traumatic brain injuries. That's really kind of what we do. But the bottom line is, why isn't my baby sleeping? Well, I can't. I'm tired because how can you be tired if the baby's crying? Well, that's like the whole idea that obviously the whole house circadian clock is all messed up. Got a 5-year-old staring at his iPad because he has no parents or no parenting. what's that going to do to his brain, her brain? And why is it that he can't fall asleep at night? Well, it's because you can't just turn your kid loose with a bright light, blue light in his face all day, type of thing. You follow me? I see everybody struggle when they have a baby, but the baby should be right in the rhythm, just like all babies throughout the history of mankind. It's just when we have to kind of not be socially acceptable and go to bed at a normal time when baby's tired, you know, social pressures.
Yeah, definitely a big one. Definitely a big one. But so I think we're slowly coming to an end of this session. So we covered so many things now. We looked into what is HRV, how can you measure it, what is a good HRV, or how can you improve it, and even like that red light and let's say photobiomodulation, like a certain wavelength of light, can also help improving it. And as a close to this session, if you would recommend like 3 things that everyone can do right away that probably are maybe even for free, what are 3 things you would do to increase HRV, like just really as a broad generalization, if that's possible at all?
Well, of course. I think that the first one is respect your sleep. You know, respect your sleep. Ask yourself, what time do I go to bed? Well, between 10 and 11:30. That's not respecting your sleep. That's your sacred time. That's your time to recover. That's the time to get ready for the day. That's the time, because guess what? If you injure your body and brain, remember, alcohol is a toxin, right? That's why we like it. But as you go down, you have to recover from that. So the people that you interact with, if you care about people, take care of yourself, right? If you care about your relationships at home, at work, when you're interacting with people, then you should be cognizant of what does it take for me to have the bandwidth to handle everything that's going to come at me today. So get a sleep schedule and stick to it. You don't have to buy the tracker if you don't want, but just, put your phone will do a tracking of it. The second thing is get outside, be aware of the circadian rhythm, the lights, times on, times out. I think a big thing is, and Molly McLaughlin, the Sleep is a Skill, she talked about this a lot, is eat when the sun goes down. I think that's a big thing because, remember, rest and digest, right? So the 3 things I would say, go outside. If you can touch the ground, if they let you in the parks anymore, touch the grass 10 minutes a day, take a walk in the sun, and look at the sun, in the morning if you can. Even if you open one eye, see it, okay, your body knows it's morning time, then go back to sleep. I got roosters, so they let me know, and I say, thank you very much. I see there's a little light, and I go back to sleep because I got to get my, stuff done. So I think that's the 3 things, three biggest things. And then, you're going to get as much benefit of that as you can from your paint with a broad brush, as I like to say.
That's awesome. So we have respect your sleep. What was the second one?
So get outside, so at least you're getting the sunlight. See the sunlight. I try to say, pay attention to the sky. If you're a man or a woman that looks at the sky, you have a different focus anyway, right? Because you're not looking at your screen all the time. You're gazing at nature. It's called a nature walk. Even if you just look at, look at it on TV or look at a picture of a waterfall. Expand your horizon a little bit. So when you're outside, maybe touch the grass, touch the trees. That helps, blow off that negative ions, and then try to eat, around sundown, so that you're giving yourself a window of rest and digest to bring yourself down into a good state so that your sleep is. So it kind of circles around that. Because then it's going to be, you have to guide the plane down it so that it can land and you can go to sleep. You know what I mean? We're not Vietnam fighter pilots that can drop in anymore. We don't have that skill anymore. But you need to develop those types of skills.
That is a really good image there. And I think like all of those three methods, like respect your sleep, get outside, and then watch when you are eating your last meal, all of those are really targeted at improving sleep. So actually, so I guess what you're saying is also like sleep is the #1 thing also for heart rate variability. And especially the third point that you just mentioned, like I try to add some muscles. I have to eat a lot, get a lot of calories in, and during the Christmas time, I ate pretty late, just social stuff, and I really noticed my HRV drop and my levels drop, and I felt like crap. And really, that is like one of the most influential things. And then you see a lot of biohackers. Like we have like these classes also, which are fancy, which are cool, but in terms of sleep statistics, nothing even comes close to eating earlier before you go to bed. So if I finish my last meal like 2 to 3 hours before I hit the pillow, actually my sleep will be way better. And I drink a herb tea or something in the end,
Correct.
but I don't stuff myself last minute or kick my blood sugar up with sweets.
Correct.
And that does a lot, like also for my recovery in sports gain.
Absolutely. And you got to find that line between, you know, not eating and eating, and then when and timing it and everything like that. But this is the highest correlation. So when we take our numbers, we look at the correlations. So what does this correlate to HRV? What does this correlate to HRV? So the three things that I gave you have the highest correlation of improving your HRV. And if you can respect yourself and listen to your heart, you're going to be really moving your HRV up. If you run into trouble, that's what I'm here for, right? Because here's the thing. Just want to tie this in. The fasting before you go to bed helps the brain, because it's the heart-brain connection that people are missing. It's not just aerobics. It's not cardiovascular health. It's cerebrovascular health. Do you understand? That's how this is my take on it.
Yeah, that is really cool, and that is what a lot of people like don't even see, and also what is not communicated, because it's not yet in the fitness journals and men's health stuff and whatever. It's like really that your head and what you're thinking, and actually your brain, like your actual hardware, will greatly influence everything else, because like all the hormones are produced through these electrical signals, and you need those at night to recover and to rest and so on. So this is but then again, like I think we could talk for 2 or 3 hours about this, and this is actually what people like you and me are also for. You much more than me, because I'm not really an expert. I'm just like an experimental guy checking out things and testing stuff. But you like really dig deep on that. So I actually want to give you the last word. Where can people learn more about your work? Where can people find what you do, and how can they contact you?
Well, they can follow me on Instagram. I like that. I'm my_brain_matters. My brain matters. And I, post a lot of stuff. I did a lot with the sleep because it was so important that people understand sleep. I sort of focused on that in my Instagram, and we have a lot of options. We have free discovery calls. People want to get on, we give them a discovery call, let them talk about what's going on, and we have a whole online coaching system that allows people to get in the 100 club. HRV team HRV 100, babe.
Okay, that's really cool. I will put all this info also in the IGTV show notes so people can look it up. We get most views afterwards. So Dr. Joe Diduro, it was a real pleasure. It was amazing to dive into there, and I can't wait to, again, like look into my HRV a bit more. Even though it's just algorithmic calculation, I still get a lot of benefits from it, and I will try to also get into your 100 club as soon as possible. Until then, I wish you a lot of success with your product launches and all your endeavors. And I hope we stay in touch. Maybe we can do another live session again to dive much deeper into all these topics. To everyone watching, thank you very much for joining in. Please follow Minimalist Biohacker on Instagram, and look into the website also for courses and webinars. Mostly in German right now, but I'm gonna adapt this. So have a really nice day, Joe, and stay safe. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with everyone.
Stay gritty out there. Stay gritty. Stay
Gritty.
gritty.
Awesome. Love that. Bye.